Fellas, it's demon time. Before we hop into this review of chapter 34 of Fortune the Apocalypse, please do me a favor and leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got Pencil here, and here we are to review chapter 34 of Fortune the Apocalypse, which is known as True Nature's Exposed. And not really, actually. Like, when we get into this chapter, not really. But however, let's hop right into it. And we get to see that Nasians and Anne, they can touch the barrier, but then they can walk right on through. Like, there's not much problem with it. It's almost like walking through, like, wind a little bit, something like that. It's not, I was just gonna say walking through water, but, you know, we don't usually walk through water. It's weird. I can't, like, have you ever, this is gonna sound weird, but have you ever walked through a waterfall? Like, water is coming down, and, like, of course, like, you put your hand there and it's like a solid mass a little bit, but then you keep walking forward. They seem to have that sort of experience. Meanwhile, when Ard goes to go and stroll on through with his pupper, there's an electric shock, and it's a strong shock too. Like, he doesn't even really touch the barrier, he reaches out towards it, and instead of getting like a sort of watery effect where he touches it and he's not allowed to go through, the barrier bursts with electricity that literally burns his hand. And it's like, whoa, Ard, what you doing there, buddy? Are you not human? Or, well, it's interesting. Like, this chapter raises a whole ton of questions that I'll get into the further we get into the chapter, but that's a very interesting reaction for it to have, and it makes me wonder why it has that reaction, especially considering what we learn later on in the chapter. But then we get to see that Ard is screaming as the distraction, like he's getting a whole bunch of the monsters to come walk over to him. And the thing is, he, like, I don't really, I guess it makes sense because they're in like a catch-22. Like, the monsters can't leave, quote unquote monsters, they can't leave, because if they do, they'll turn back into monsters and they'll get yelled at. But at the same time, Ard also can't enter, so it's sort of like a shouting contest. Like, imagine you and your homie are just like in between like a bulletproof glass wall, and you're just yelling at each other. Like, there's nothing you can really do other than just sit there and scream. But I guess, hey, that's the plan. And Ard just assumes that, no, Nasian's asked if Nard's gonna be, Nasian's asked if Nard, oh my, Nasian's asked if Ard is gonna be okay, and Nasian's is like, hello, Anne, are you gonna respond to me? And Anne's like, hurry, Nasians, come on. Like, she doesn't even register the question. She doesn't even care. And I guess it's just because she's like full on in that, like, I need to be a hero and save my friends kind of mindset. I need to prove myself because, I was useless last arc. And she's got a point, kind of. At the same time, though, it's definitely, I mean, no, because if you're desperate to go save your friends, that's one thing. But she doesn't even ask questions. Like, the moment they do run in, we get to see that honestly, this is a pretty interesting perspective, because Nasian seems to have more of my perspective, of course, because he's the best boy. But he's like, yo, those two cause so much trouble. Well, actually, no. Anne has more of my perspective, which makes sense because she's a pretty good character too. But the thing is, Anne is like, those two cause so much trouble. Percival's the problem, and he's like, Anne literally brings up the complaint I had last chapter, where Percival literally hard learned nothing. And to be fair, like, I thought about my complaints from last chapter, and they're still valid, 100%. But especially since Percival is so world new, I feel like every single instance of world interaction he has should be having like 10 times the impact rather than negative 15 the impact. But regardless of that, it makes sense for Percival to not necessarily care about running into danger, because every other time he's run into danger, he's been perfectly fine. The man has literally died and come back at this point. Why would you have any fear? I'm still mad at Donnie, though. Like, Donnie doesn't have an excuse for being stupid. Like, Donnie's just stupid. But Percival, I'll give you a pass, because, like, you're literally immortal. Like, he literally did what Meliodas took months to do. Meliodas had an immortality curse put upon him by a deity, and it took him months to resurrect. Meanwhile, Percival gets stabbed dead in the chest, gets a few words of encouragement from his homeboys, one who isn't even really a homeboy, one that he literally just met, like, quite literally that day, I believe, and comes back to life. So I guess when you're Percival, you ain't got to worry. You got that main character status. I'm honestly interested to see where Nakaba takes Percival's character and how many impacts it's going to take for him to actually learn something. Someone's got to die. Like, I don't know who it is, but someone's got to die. Nasians and Donnie are both original characters. So far, none of y'all have mentioned anything about them in Arthurian mythology. I'm I'm kind of one of them or both of them is going to die, and that's how we're probably going to get the rest of the 4 Knights group, because I know Anne's too important to die because she's based on somebody. Anne Galahad, that's a thing. But Donnie and Nasian's, especially considering how little Nasian's whole family tree seems to be important, and his mom is already dead, and Nasian's is an orphan anyway, so sure, Dolores and Ordo would be sad, but other than that, it would just be a good impact for Percival. So one of them's gonna die. I can sense it at this point, because if Nakaba truly said, "Oh, you better enjoy this lighthearted Percival now while we have him," someone's got to go though, and we've already seen what happened when his grandfather went. So imagine a person like he's actually been traveling with and living his new life with dies too. I'm waiting, but I got completely off track. But we get to see that Nasians is like, and don't you see, we're in a manga. So of course Percival has to be stupid to drive the plot forward. It's part of his character. And like every single week, you and I, we all have these discussions in the comment section of how Percival reminds us of Kid Goku, Kid Naruto, all these like your basic 12-year-old shonen protagonists that go out there into the world with like all this innocence and cause problems. Like Nakaba himself knows exactly what he's doing, and this is why he's just poking us he's literally just poking us with a stick, saying like, yeah, I know, I'm here too, don't worry, I know what I be writing, And the thing is, I love how Nasians and Anne sort of have this differing perspective based on their histories and their desires. Like, Nasians just wants to help people. So when he sees someone as innocent and carefree and living life and loving life as Percival does, he doesn't get mad at him. He's like, that's kind of what I want to do. I want to be happy and provide joy to other people, and Percival seems to be pretty good at that. Meanwhile, Anne, who has this like strict, perfect ideal of a holy knight, is opposite. She sees Percival as sort of like this wild card, something that isn't really safe for anybody, because if things like this keep happening, they aren't immortal. Percival is. So someone could seriously get hurt. Like, say these demons, as like I keep acting as if I literally said that. I said demon time in the intro. Y'all know what time it is. But regardless of that, Anne has a point in the sense that if Percival does keep running into these situations like this, and they have to keep running it and saving him, Ironside could just kill them. Or like an Ironside level threat. Like anything of a level that's beyond Percival at this point can very easily kill one of our protagonists, even with Percival there. If Pelgard shows up again, Big Papa Pelgard, and just starts smacking people around, someone could die. And that's something that Percival can enable by being as reckless as he is. So, I don't know. I get both perspectives. I get Nasian's view and I get Anne's view. And I think that's cool. I love how Nakaba, like, the man completely acknowledged the character he wrote, gave reasons why the character is like that, and is now having other characters discuss the nature of the character that he wrote. And have those two characters discuss why it can be a good and bad thing based on the character's histories, perspectives, and honestly, an audience kind of perspective. It's really cool. I like when authors do that. Like, they put in sort of like perspective characters and have these moments where characters, when separated from the main character, can have views on the MC that possibly mirror the audience's views on the MC. That's really cool stuff. Or not even just the MC, characters in general. That's really, really cool to have. But regardless of that, we do leap back into the plot. I'm sorry, I know I'm going on to some completely deep character stuff and like how Nakaba's writing and stuff like that. And while I do love doing that, those are for other kinds of videos, not just flat out reviews. Then we get to see that Anne is trying to remind us that she does want to be a leader. She does want to be a holy knight. And I do really like how Nasians has this weird thing where he calls everyone by their full government name. And like, I think it's cool. Like constantly hearing Anne Galahad, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If someone has the phonetic pronouncing of that, because I've went to Google, and according to Google, I'm kind of saying it right. But like, if I'm saying it wrong, just tell me. But regardless of that, Anne Galahad, she's a very determined character, and sort of just becoming this leader, holy knight symbol that sort of guides her group along. And I like the motivation. But in a way, see, I think that's cool. Once again, she's just like Percival in the sense that she's rushing in without too much information based on ideals that she's had before, and that the idea that her friends need to be saved before getting full perspective on the information. She's doing the exact thing that she was complaining that Percival was doing, except in her mind, it's the proper thing to do because, you know, perspectives and stuff like that. Nakaba, you be writing characters, don't you? You'll be writing characters. You can't write main villains. I mean, I like Hendrickson. And I think I love a lot of the commandments. I'm not gonna. I love Zeldris. I love Gallant especially. They're good. Joel and Loxinia were really cool too. Just the Demon King. I mean, Kath was cool, but Kath showed up like as a main level threat a little bit too late in the narrative. I don't know. With protagonists, you're good at writing protagonists. You're good at writing characters in general, Knock, but I'll give you credit. I'm gonna do a whole Demon King. I'm gonna do a whole video on why the Demon King sort of underappreciated as a villain. But though I completely understand why, I still have my problems with the Demon King as a character. But we'll get into that. And why am I talking about this? We are 10 minutes in. I'm not even, how many pages? Golly, I'm not even 5 pages, 6 pages in. But regardless of that, we get to see that the two, after Anna's declared her want to be a leader and is rushing in, we see Donnie is his head is about to split open. And the thing is that Anne runs off to go like take care of the idol because Nassim is like, that's our end goal here. Let's keep it pushing. While he goes to help Donnie. And the thing is, see, it's cool that Sylvan is still allowed to speak even without Sin there. Because we as an audience deserve to hear his perspective, even though other characters that aren't Sin can't hear his perspective. Though, honestly, seeing later on in the chapter, it makes me wonder if Percival will develop the ability to understand them, too. Like, when Sin and whoa, why is his name? So, why did Sylvan leave my head? Because I literally stopped looking at the screen for 2 seconds. Like, I don't know why Sylvan's name left my head. Sylvain was just screaming in my head. But regardless of that, I wonder if Percival will ever develop the ability to, like, understand Sylvan and Sin, even when they're not trying to be understood. Or, like, Sin's not trying to be understood, and Sylvan is just speaking. Like, I wonder if that's going to happen, considering how quickly he picks up a certain language that we see later on. However, we get to see all the people start, like, strolling up, smiles on their face, completely blacked out eyes. And as Donnie's writhing in pain on the ground, Nassim looks for an answer, like, what happened to you? We're surrounded. What's going on? And he sees alcohol. And then we cut away to Anne going to, like, go get the idol so she can go break it. And then we see Percival getting body bagged. That man got slammed. Like, given the context of the chapter, this makes perfect sense. But, like, seeing how strong Percival has been, especially relative to full-grown adults, seeing this tiny little pudgy dude, like, just knock this man back with the force of 10 tons and just send him sprawling through the ground, it's kind of impressive. Shout out to this guy. But regardless, we get to see that Anne just wouldn't stay. Like, if she had stayed there for 2 seconds longer or like arrived 2 seconds later, she legitimately would have seen Percival get back up and have fun. Like, perspective's a tricky thing. I don't blame her, especially considering I was extra skeptical about this village, considering what Sin had just told us not 2 chapters ago. But, like, Anne, you couldn't have, like, witnessed, you could have helped her out a little bit. Like, it's Percival. Like, I don't know. I get why she's rushing, because obviously she's scared. And to be fair, I'd be scared in this village too. Like, even if I had all the information that I do now by the end of the chapter, I mean, I just wouldn't be in the village. I'm not gonna lie to you. I wouldn't be standing around trying to help people. I'd be like, oh, it's demon time. I did not sign up for this. I'd be gone in seconds. But regardless of that, we get to see that Percival is actually just chilling out and playing Gurren with these people. And the thing is, we see that the only thing that Donnie had a problem with was that the beer was too strong. The alcohol was, like, too potent, which is interesting, but also kind of explains why Meliodas never got drunk. Like, if you think about it, if, like, this real underworld brew is way stronger, like, alcohol content wise than the brews in Britannia, and that's why it was, like, literally killing Donnie as he drank it, it would make sense that Meliodas is able to just down drinks upon drinks upon drinks upon drinks upon, well, capacity-wise, it doesn't make sense. I feel like Meliodas' body mass shouldn't make up how much water he can intake or how much liquids he can intake. But at least alcohol content-wise, it explains why he never got drunk. Because I bet he could knock back a few underworld brews too. So having super high demon world tolerance must be, like, insanely superhuman tiers of resistance when it comes to Britannian ale. But then we get to see that, in actuality, Percival literally just was playing Gurren, but on top of that, he learns one of the people's names. Dolon Chomonte. Dolchomonte. Sorry for putting an accent on that. It's just how I read it. But regardless of that, Dolchomonte, he speaks demon tongue. See, I noticed that it was, like, akin to demon tongue, and y'all were smart in the comment section last week and noticed that it was possibly the same language that Merlin's name was originally in. That lost plot thread that I'm not sure is going to be a plot thread or not, especially considering what we know now. Like, I don't know. Was that just did Nakaba forget? Because Nakaba forgets a lot of things. But did Nakaba forget about that whole Merlin having a real name, even though she's literally just a human? Like, regardless of that, we knew this was a different language. Then it seemed kind of familiar. But then we get to see that everyone hears the language. Like, Donnie and Nasian's like can comprehend what Dolcemonte is like saying. Like, they know he's saying something. They just have no idea what he's saying. And Percival just goes like, I mean, it's not that complicated. Like, yo, what language is this? It's not originally from Britannia. And when I first read this, like, my brain glitched. Like, as a person who is struggling to be bilingual at all, like, I can speak English just fine. Well, even though my English is questionable, but I'm also trying to learn a second language, which is Spanish. Like, I wish my comprehension was this good. Like, Percival, after like a couple rounds of Gurren, suddenly managed to learn the entire demon lexicon, grammar and all, apparently, considering he has commas in his phrases. And after like multiple years of education, I'm still struggling basic conversations. Like, come on now, Percival, lend me the hacks, bro. But regardless of that, we get to see that not only can Percival speak it, but since he can speak it fluently, he can literally just hold casual conversation with them, but we don't know what Dolcemonte says back. And I'm assuming he's saying, oh yeah, it's not originally from the demon realm. No, it's not originally from Britannia, it's from the demon realm. But the interesting thing is that Percival doesn't know why he can speak it either. And the question is, no, because that doesn't make sense. What I was initially about to verbalize is the idea that maybe Percival can understand it because he ate and drank the demon style food. But Donnie did the same thing and he's just as clueless. Like, I don't, like, Percival is the horseman of death. And like, death is like the ultimate mirror, as like, completely different series, but as Jujutsu Kaisen says, and Mahito being like the embodiment of death, it's like the ultimate mirror to humanity, and of course one of the mirrors of life and stuff like that. Since the demons are technically a different variation of humans, they're sentient, blah 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 blah. Like, you can go into a whole argument about like individuality and just the fact that they're not called humans doesn't mean they don't have human traits to them. But is that supposed to be the reason you can just pick up languages easily? Like, he's death, so he's a mirror to things, and thus he can reflect their language back to them, and that's why he doesn't know, because it's sort of like an instinctive thing that happens? Or is that just one of Percival's powers? Because if it's just one of Percival's powers, that's just like has to do with his super malleable, weird construct magic, I don't know anymore. What can't the powers do? But regardless of that, we get to see that Anne has gotten to the Great Pillar, and she manages to somehow, like, I mean, I guess it doesn't make it's not illogical for her to be able to pull it down. It's just that, like, this pillar is super big, and like, no offense to Sylvan and Anne, but if that rock is staying so stable on top of that other rock, I feel like even with Sylvan's multiversal strength, like, he shouldn't be able to yank that rock off. And the interesting thing is, we get another perspective. We cut back to this big demon man. But notably, he's still speaking Britannian tongue, even when simply conversing with the demons. And it makes me wonder what he is, once again, because we all had the realization last week that, hey, this dude, he low-key built like Mael. Like, we all had that. But then we get to see that this man speaking Britannian with demons, but he looks like a sort of demon kind of himself. He looks like a goddess that has demon-esque attributes and powers, and he has magical ability. Like, who are you? Tell me who you are right here, right now. Though we don't actually get an answer for that, like, this chapter at all. Even though the chapter's called True Nature is Revealed, or whatever, like, we don't get to see what he looks like. Though we get to see that it's interesting. He doesn't call it an idol. He doesn't call it a monument. He calls it a device, meaning that there's some sort of, well, I mean, there are magical devices, so I'm not even going to harp on that. But he calls it a device, which is interesting. And we get to see that this lightning, that I'm assuming is like keeping the demons placid and like transfigured or alchemy into humans, is sort of malfunctioning as Anne pulls on it. And once she finally manages to get it all the way off, the thing crashes, comes off, and just instantly crumbles. And then since it crumbles, the rocks that are guarding the edge all start exploding, and they all the lightning that started to course around before is actually interesting. It's black lightning too. Like, it has a white base interior, but it's covered, like the lines for the lightning is very, very thick, which is actually maybe a Nakaba thing. Hold on, I'm trying to think back to Guild. Regardless of that, lightning courses around, and all the demons, including Dolcemonte, they're back to normal. And the interesting thing is, I mean, no, I'll get into that in a little bit, but Dolcemonte is like, is it weird that he has no nose? Like, he had a nose in human form. Like, why did my man lose nose powers, like, when he went back to his real state? Like, it's not like demons lack noses. Like, all the high level demons have noses. He had a nose in human form. Even higher level demons have like, demons in the very next page have noses. Dolcemonte, where is your nose at, bruh? And what? Wait a minute. Am I witnessing that correctly? Does Dolcemonte have a demon mark? Huh? Did red demons have demon marks? Hold on. I'm assuming Dolcemonte is a red demon. Maybe because he's young? I don't know. He seems like baby because his horns aren't as long. Dude, is a nose part of puberty? Wait a minute. Hold on. I just thought about this. Is a nose part of demon puberty? If you're a young demon, do you not have a nose? Huh? I just noticed that because, like, he's big, but he's not like towering over buildings big like a lot of the red demons are. Because, like, Dolcemonte, like, he's twice the size of Donnie with a little bit more added on, but he's not like gigantic. But the interesting thing is that the demons seem confused, but not just on a like, oh no, we look like demons again level. It's almost like a, huh? Like, they're coming out of a daze. And that's something I had assumed. Well, no, not really. Did I really? I kind of assumed. Like, I've wondered if this device was not just like keeping someone like Art out and keeping the demons in, but I also wonder if this is like a testing facility or something like that, because the demons are looking around like they've just been freed from like a trance. And considering they were all smiling, complacent, and weren't using any powers up to this point, I'm assuming the rock acted as like a magic suppressor. It obviously suppressed their true forms, but like it also seemed to suppress their magic. But also on top of that, it seems like they managed to be like under some sort of mental spell or control. I don't know, because like that thing that really makes me think that is that like the gray demon in the very far back, like he's standing on a ledge and looking at his hand, like he's having this moment of, am I just asleep? Like, you ever have those moments where you were dreaming and then you suddenly jolt awake and you look up and you're like, huh, like, what's going on? Like, it's interesting. It's interesting, but I'm happy that we get to see the demons again. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I do miss the demon clan. I do miss the humanoid ones the most because, you know, those ones had characters that weren't just fodder. But I'm actually happy if Nakaba manages to give characters like Dolcemonte like names and appearances and backgrounds. One, it's gonna retroactively make every single red demon and gray demon they just arbitrarily kill sadder, because, you know, these people actually have personalities and are people and not just worthless dispensable fodder that we need to kill and power scale against. But it's also just cool to see them living in a town like this and how they're going to react. Because, of course, they're in the daze right now. Like, we're demons again, and I'm not sure if I was just asleep. But also on top of that, they're, like, they're free now, kind of in a sense. Like, I know Ard, who, he reveals himself. And I don't know how he does it. Like, is that what he actually looks like? Because that helmet looks way too small for Art's head. Like, that's the main issue I'm having here. Like, he suddenly loses a whole ton of mass. Like, did he have a coat beneath his coat? Like, he rips off the pelt that he had over his shoulders and throws away the bows and arrows and the hunting gear to reveal a man dressed in a long, elaborate, like, dress cape coat thing, like a sleeveless nightgown with an opening in the front, a massive, like there's no way you were hiding that all underneath a helm, or no, underneath a fur pelt. Like, he literally has a whole top helmet covering part, and he's wielding a gigantic chaos staff that we know Arthur gives out. And I knew I recognized that thing from somewhere. Like, I know we were all y'all, I called it out last chapter too. I knew that thing was shady, but we see the little demon dog, or no, the dog reveals itself to be just like that purgatory beast from all that time ago, like one of the ones Meliodas slayed. However, it still seems to be in somewhat dog form, because it still has 4 legs. I think the one that I remember from Purgatory only had 2 legs and like a really long tail. But it's in the middle transforming. He's still snapping back to his true self. But that's interesting. I wonder what the man is behind, like the main menace behind all this. The dude who looks like Mael, but like with Bartra's head and many years older. I wonder what his goal is in all this. I wonder what the Holy Knight was. If his name is still Ard, it's Ard, I guess. But I wonder what Ard has to do with all this, and how long he was stalking outside the village waiting for some chumps to go in there and not get eaten, I guess. And speaking of being eaten, like, I can't immediately feel bad for the demons and stuff like that, because I need a clarification on if Donnie and Percival are, the man-eating people. Like, did they actually eat a person, or was that like a bird that Nakaba just tricked us with pure perspective-wise? Like, I remember demons eating human souls, not necessarily human flesh. So I'm gonna need some clarification on that, Nakaba, before it feels all too bad for these demons, because I'm a human too. So I'm kind of not rocking with them eating people and feeding people to other people. You know what I'm saying? And also I'm interested to see just how powerful both Ard and the guy in the town are, because obviously the guy in the town is very likely the one who made the device, or is at least maintaining it. So he's strong enough to keep Ard out of there conventionally with the barrier up. But how will he stand to an Ard that doesn't have any entry fees anymore? Like, he doesn't have to pay $1 million to walk into the town anymore. He can literally just, all right, time to kill you all. So I'm interested to see the power scaling there. I'm interested to see where Percival stands up to these two. Like, if Percival's either an absolute threat or just fodder to these 2 higher level beings that are making barriers that can keep out holy knight tier level threats with chaos staves and everything. But then again, the last guy we saw with the chaos staff, I mean, it's kind of fodder. Like if we really think about it, the last person we saw with the chaos staff was like Talisker. And Talisker got body bagged after a quick beating to Percival. So don't be fodder, or don't be fodder. But other than that, let's hope Sin wakes up. Like, I know, like, after having Sin solve the problem and literally making Ironside one of our main endgame antagonists, at least for the first arc, like him being a first arc endgame antagonist being Ironside, like, that would make sense. Him scaring off an Ironside level threat, it makes sense to keep him out of the narrative, because he's obviously too strong for the narrative. But at the same time, Sin, please do something. I'm just begging you, bro. Please do something. But other than that, great chapter. Like, if y'all can't tell by how much I was talking and going like on completely different tangents and thoughts, and how much I love the character stuff, and how great I think, honestly, like, all the interactions and humanization Nakaba's giving to different types of characters and the different perspectives. Like, I love this chapter from a sheer, like, it makes me think. And while it's honestly not the most action-packed chapter, it doesn't have the most, like, insane character reveals and revelations and stuff like that. The twist at the end is good. The artwork is still top tier, as always, with Nakaba. The different character stuff is still literally amazing. And obviously, I love to see me some Demon Clan, especially if we're getting hints to, like, demon biology and how they grow up, considering we see a young Dolcemonte who has a demon mark, which has even more interest behind it. So yeah, this chapter, while being another intermediary chapter, is super duper interesting. So it's gonna have to catch that smooth 10 out of 10. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Nakaba. I can't wait for the next one. But those are my thoughts. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.